person as well. All right. So I think that's all of the opening issues that I have. Jim, I'll turn it back over to you.
Again, thank you very much, David, and thank you, Marion. I'd like to begin by asking Reverend Larry Green to offer us a prayer in honor of those who have been affected by the coronavirus and those who have lost loved ones or friends as a result of the pandemic.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, all. Shall we humble ourselves together in mind and spirit? First, a moment of silence in memory of all of the coronavirus victims. And our prayer. Gracious and great Spirit of our living, loving God, we are the gathered members of the Manasota branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, seek your sacred presence. In this virtual meeting, unusually separated by distance for us, we know that your glorious Spirit can overcome the miles and bind us together in mind, heart, and spirit again. We know that your Spirit can commingle our combined focus upon caring for ourselves, our families, our communities, the needs of our youth, especially our Manasota ASALH scholars, and our whole world. Under the onslaught of this coronavirus, please remind us that we are descendants of people who have struggled through epidemics and pandemics before. Supply us once more with the wisdom and strength of our ancient ones. Grace us again with a faith that pushes us forward in hope through another storm. Bless us another time with that deeper love that gives a helping hand, a sympathetic understanding, and a togetherness that overcomes distance and difference. We lift up our minds and surrender our hearts together for this meeting, and in a spirit of faith, hope, and love, we move forward. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Larry. I know all of us fully understand the depth of the situations that we face and those of our loved ones. We appreciate your spiritual leadership on this issue. Next on the agenda is our moment in history. And I would like to introduce our guest presenter today, our own Medea Harper. Medea has a very extensive background. She's currently a creative concept strategist and a education program development consultant. She worked at the Brooklyn Museum as Vice Director for Education and Program Development for 12 years. And she has a Master's of Education from the Bank Street College of Education. She's also served as an adjunct instructor at the Teachers College of Columbia University. So she brings a wealth of experience to her topic today, which focuses on what happens when in public spaces when there's controversies around monuments. So without further ado, Medea, please enlighten us. She's got to unmute herself.
Unmute yourself. Yep. Unmute yourself, Medea.
Okay.
There you go.
Now?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ASALH.
Good morning.
So happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Jim, for that introduction. I didn't know you had my resume. So that's great. I have had a lot of experience in the art world and had an experience back in September with works of art by Black artists that just blew me away. And I was so excited about my experience when I got back to Sarasota. I tried to write about it and talk about it because it just was so impactful. I didn't really understand what happened until I started writing and this story came out of me. And I wanted to share it with you all. You were my first target audience, if you will. And of course, time has gone by. I've retweaked the writing and tried to get it published, and it is now online as about 3 weeks ago on a museum blog. And I was on the calendar for today, and was a little hesitant because, you know, this is stepping outside of our real world that we're living in right now with the trauma of COVID. And at the same time, I'm looking forward. I'm still thinking that we have to behave, and we have to behave healthfully and mindfully, and at the same time think about the future, because we will be on the other side of this at some point in time. So coming from that perspective on what we could be thinking about, what I'm thinking about for the world, for ourselves as Black people and people who advocate for Black people, this is where I'm going to be speaking from, and it's the story that I wrote a couple of months ago. And what I'm going to do is switch over to a share screen so that you can see my images. I took a lot of pictures, and I found a lot of pictures to tell my story. So I'm going to put my PowerPoint on, and you'll see the slides. You won't see me, but you're going to hear my voice. Everybody okay with that? Okay, I'm going to share screen. Okay, I can't see you, and I'm going to think that you can hear me. And if you can't, David or Marion, you'll somehow let me know. So this is a moment, pardon me?
We're not seeing your screen yet.
Oh, uh-oh. Do you see me?
I see you, but don't you see you yet? Don't see
Uh-oh.
your slides yet, right? You want me to try?
Yeah, because I don't know why. I'm looking at the slides.
Right, let me, hang on. Let's see here.
Maybe I have to go back to the Zoom page. Start again.
Let me get into my, should have been in here already, Google. Everyone be patient, please.
Can you see that?
Just a moment.
This is the real moment in history right now.
David, are we recording this session?
We
Yes.
are, Jim.
Good.
I
Hang
have
on.
a question for you, David. In your settings, did you allow participants to share?
Yep, hang on, Marion.
Okay.
I am recording James.
Just a moment.
Okay, I think I'm there.
Are
I
you?
only see a black, oh, there we go.
Wait a minute. Yep, we're getting there. Okay, now you see?
Yes,
Okay. Does everybody see the screen?
Yes.
yes, I
Okay.
can. Yes.
Yes.
I am muted.
Now, just one other thing. There we go. Okay, now we're good?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry about that. So, well, their art is making a very big statement, and I wanted to alert, if that's the right word, I wanted folks to know. When you think about the history of the world, you'll see that it is framed by great artworks that help us understand the time we live in. For instance, the cave paintings, or the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt, or the Buddha temple. There's many of them. This one is in Borobudur, Indonesia. The Benin plaques of ancient Nigeria, 14th century and probably earlier. And even up to the present, if you will, to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. These are all objects that help us understand who we are and where we are in history. And the same can be said for art objects. So my topic is what happens when monumental sculptures by Black artists are placed in white dominant public spaces. And I'll break that down. My interest in telling you all this story is because of ASALH's long track record of hosting art exhibitions here in Sarasota. And it was also triggered by ASALH member David Wilkins' course on American slavery last summer. These two topics, or the topics of art and culture of people of African descent, are my two favorite things to think about and act on. So I'm starting my story here. In 1979, I was in college, and my art history professor told me there are no great Black artists. And I remember thinking, what, are you kidding me? How could that be? And how could he not know about the great Black artists that are present in the United States of America before 1978 when I was sitting in that class? And so I couldn't believe how he didn't know about Tanner or Duncanson or Bearden or Catlett or Lawrence. How did he not know about these fantastic artists? He was a professor and he was doing an art survey class, and I didn't understand how he could manage to not have a full scope of knowledge on visual culture of great Black artists. And that was enough for me, and I dropped his class. Then last September, and of course the years went by, and I've been in the art field all these years, and there have been lots of Black artists that have come to the fore, as we all know. But something has been happening now in the last decade. And last September, I ran up to the city and I spent 7 days of looking at artworks, and my mind was completely blown, because usually when all of us, any of us, go to New York City to look at art, or I am a New Yorker, being in New York City, I'm aware that most of the time there's one, if we're lucky, two, if we're lucky, Black artists, artists of African descent, on exhibition in a mainstream institution. And I was surprised. I Googled Black artists on view in New York City before I came to sort of make a plan for myself. And I was shocked to see at least 10 names in solo exhibitions in New York City. And
Okay.
I
Give me the
got
word.
my,
Okay, we'll be here Monday.
sorry?
I'll give you a great deal, okay, with the 10-year labor warranty. So
Okay,
I'm gonna order the equipment and we'll see you Monday.
thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Guys, stay healthy.
Okay, so since my college days, art history professors and museums continue to perpetuate the myth that Black artists' work is not equal to the work of white artists, which is why Black artists were not included in the art canon, if you will, in the art trajectory over time. Racism, of course. And I really understand it because I know a lot of teaching syllabi that's happening in the universities, and I can tell by the number of exhibitions that have been put on over the years where Black artists were not included in important movements where they should have been. And as I was writing this piece, I was really completely surprised and excited to read that this happened in January, that Yale University, which some of you might know is highly regarded for producing Black artists and art historians, announced it is eliminating its art history survey course to consider how to tell a fuller, more inclusive story of Western and global art. And, you know, talk about the power of young voices, or all of our voices, to speak up. It was the students, after all these years, who pushed the university to make that change. And of course, there was a ripple effect in the country because of it, in universities and in museums because of it. So over the 7 days that I was looking at art, and fooling around with my grandson, which is why I was there. I saw the artwork of Amy Sherald, who is this artist right here. And some of you may recognize her style or her name because she was the official portrait painter of First Lady Michelle Obama. And I saw these artists, I saw many, and just these few I'll share: Deirdre Brackens, Lubaina Hamid, Ed Clark, and others. I saw these great artworks in mainstream, at the Guggenheim, at the Whitney, at the New Museum, and at art galleries. And these are all award-winning artists that you would think would have been included in exhibitions long ago, but now there's a platform for artists of African descent to be the leaders in the art movement. And so those were the shows that I saw inside of spaces, in museums, behind walls. But then I went out on the street because I had heard that there was some incredible artwork happening in public spaces. And I was driving down the street with my daughter and grandson to see this piece. And this is an artwork by Simone Lee. And it's a monumental head of a Black woman. And she's peering down 10th Avenue at all the cars that are driving by. This is the High Line. This is part of the High Line elevated park. And it completely blew my mind to see this Black essence, this Black figure, this Black woman, this Black idea in form, in a three-dimensional form, looking over the city. And here's another view of her. And it's made of bronze. Spectacular. And then I went over to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which I'm thinking some of you have been to, and never in the history of the museum have there been objects outside of the building. And these 4 pieces by a sister named Wangechi Mutu were installed a couple of months ago in the niches, in the facade of the building. And I was completely stunned to see these 4 fabulous Afrocentric, Afrofuturistic objects in front of the Met. It was stunning. And then over to Times Square, in the middle of the pedestrian intersection, was Kehinde Wiley's monumental 20-foot tall sculpture of a young Black male rider with dreadlocks on a stallion. Boom, mind blown again. I mean, it's just so fantastic and so important to see this object. And I think you can see on your screens 47th Street, 49th Street. This is the major thoroughfare of New York City. And so, stepping back for a second, I said, what was happening in New York City? The public recognition of art's greatness was blowing my mind. And in particular, these sculptures of Wangechi, Simone, and Kehinde, I use their first names because I met them. These sculptures are large, they're not small, and they're prominently placed in public spaces where the art itself, because of where it is and what it is changing the debate, excuse me, on what should be memorialized in public art throughout a city. And what I see and what they are telling us through their objects is that it's imaginative Black identities. Seeing these works reminded me of when I was a kid and television was young and a Black person would show up on the screen and I would scream Black people on TV, and everybody would come running through the house to see the Black people on TV because we didn't get to see ourselves too often. And I felt that way when I saw the objects and hoped that all of New York City school kids were coming to see them as well, so that Black children could see these prominent objects, these large objects in the middle of New York City, in the middle of Manhattan, I should say. And these artists, already successful at ceramics, painting, collage, video, and these artists added monumental sculptures to their resume. Their objects are public art made for outdoor public spaces. They're made to be outdoors. And what's genius about them is that they're accessible and free for all to see. Anybody walking or riding by can see these objects. They're not hidden. These three installations, these three objects talk about race, identity, Black womanhood, the Black male, history, and power. The works are provocative, soulful, purposeful, dynamic, and their Afrocentric subject matter is not hidden from view. It's not behind a wall. It's grand in scale. And it's installed in spaces usually associated with white people. It's also significant that these works were installed in Manhattan, downtown on 10th Avenue at the Highline Park, uptown on the east side at the Met, midtown at Times Square, not in Harlem. Simone Lee's Brick House, this piece is called Brick House, is a 16-foot tall bronze sculpture of a Black female figure. And as I said, it sits on the High Line. Many of you, or some of you might know about the Highline Park. It's a newish kind of park that's built on a railroad track that goes through the west side of Manhattan. And it's become a huge environmental park and a big part of the city. And Simone Lee's piece sits on the top of that particular intersection, like it's presiding over Lower Manhattan. This figure is a figure of self-determination with the cowrie shells and the cornrow hair. And even from a distance, I could see the shape of it referencing West African architecture and Southern Black pottery. Simone calls this piece a state of being. And when it was installed, I happened to meet somebody who worked in a building nearby, and she was fascinated to see it how they installed it by crane. And tourists walking by also were stopping to take a look at this magnificent piece of art, which was provoking all kinds of conversation. And it's been so important to the High Line and to New York City that when it was installed in September, I think it was installed in August actually, the High Line decided to keep it up for many more months than it was supposed to be. And then this piece, this is one of the four, and it's a small picture, but it's a long shot view so you can see the object outside, because that's really part of the story, is that these objects are outside and accessible. Excuse me, I'll show you another studio shot in a moment. Wengetji's Afrofuturistic female figures are 9 feet tall each. And as you can see, they're installed in the niches of the Met Museum. And because I'm in the art world and I know this museum and I even worked there a long time ago, I thought, since when does the Met commission a contemporary Black artist to make public art for its front door? I mean, that in and of itself made me think about how much the institution is changing and how much the art world is changing. This work is called The New Ones Will Free Us. The 4 of them are called The New Ones Will Free Us. And in my mind, they reach toward the future and into the past to depict strong Black female figures. And they reference West African ritual stools and Greek architectural columns, which were created in ancient times historically to symbolize women holding up men of power. Well, Wengetji's figures are majestic, rooted, supernatural beings of authority and power who hold themselves up. They hold up the world of the museum and all who gaze upon the discs on the being's head. I'm sorry, I'm having an allergy thing. These objects are timeless. And if you know about African sculpture or African masks, you'll notice that the first one references a lip plate, an African woman, I think like Mambitu, women who have lip plates. The next one represents a crest mask, then one full figure without a mask, and then the other one is a face plate. So Wengetji looked to the continent and combined many different African cultures, many different views of African women to create these magnificent pieces. And then over to, I went back downtown to Times Square, and there was Kahindi's piece, and I'm showing you Kahindi with the painting. Some of you may know his name, and this painting that he did of President Barack Obama. Kahindi was the official portrait painter, and his work succeeded at making art, a monumental monument, to Black male personhood. Um, and Kahindi said that he felt like when he was making these works that his motivation was enough about being left out of history. And he created these pieces called, called Rumors of War. I'm taking a sip of water. My assistant, Mrs. Lavette Harper, just got on her Cadillac walker to bring me some water. Thank you, Mrs. Harper. Rumors of War is 27 feet high. It's made of bronze. And as you can see, it's a brother with hoodie, with dreadlocks and jeans on horseback. And the reason why I put it against this other Confederate piece is because that was the goal. That was Kahindi's goal. He wanted to reposition young Black men and make a statement in response to the Confederate monuments in the South. And as I mentioned, it's installed on Broadway Plaza in Times Square, one of the busiest international crossroads in Manhattan. So that means thousands upon thousands of people are seeing these works. And for Kahindi, when it was installed, he said, "I too am American." And he wanted to make sure that that Black figure told that story. Then, I kind of stepped back from these objects to think about what I was taking in. And I realized that the humanity in Simone Wangechi and Kahindi's art in the uptown, downtown locations, midtown locations, they also conjured up the history of slavery in New York for me. And as a New Yorker and as a person who studied slavery in New York as part of my work for 8 years back in the late 80s and early 90s, I saw my 17th and 18th century ancestors who were bought and sold on Wall Street. The works in Manhattan, these 3 works that I'm talking about evoke that in me, that vision, that memory, if you will. And I saw my ancestors who were hung and burned to death in downtown Manhattan during a revolt. And I saw my enslaved ancestors who were worked to death building roads like Broadway, where Times Square runs through, and frozen to death in the cold of a New York winter. The confluence of energy between the contemporary artist production I was viewing and the knowledge of ancestral Black bodies being expunged from earth in the same location had me spinning as I thought about it. This is for real. Our ancestors who came here through the transatlantic slave trade may not have imagined, even in their wildest dreams, the New York City of today with monumental public tributes to African identities empowering the same streets they walked. In my mind's eye, these sculptures populate a centuries-old map of Manhattan, and the ancestors' presence and legacy was written all over it. The visceral experience of seeing the contemporary art objects contrasted against history made me wonder how other people were seeing these objects and what was happening for them when they engaged. Black people survived slavery and so could endure exclusion from the art world. In this past decade, the art world has shifted. These outdoor works included me in that world and all of us, and connected me to the city where they were positioned. Hopefully, no more students will hear from art historians there is no great Black art making a difference in the lives of people. It is clear to me now, more than ever, that monumental sculptures representing Black identities installed in highly visible places can invoke wonder, belonging, and action in viewers. An action I'd love to see and love to be involved in, and maybe Jim or ASALH would be interested in this too, just throwing it out. But an action I would like to be involved in is helping cities like Sarasota learn works of art are useful for many things, including reflecting all of its citizens. And I think that by commissioning monumental representational sculpture made by Black artists and artists of color and installing them in areas like the Bayfront, the city signals a visible step towards inclusion and acceptance. In 2050, I want, sociologists to study the visual culture of 2020 and say, look at that moment in history. Black artists help society change its opinions, instill new values, and translate experiences across time and space. Artists open the doors to dialogue and communication beyond boundaries. Let's celebrate artists' imagination and let them in. Let them in. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Radia. That was really powerful. And Radia was very reluctant about sharing this important information via this technology, but I think we're all much indebted to her for her perseverance and for fighting her allergies. So thank you again for that. And I'll say quickly that there is a Bayfront sculpture diversity, a sculpture that's going to reflect diversity on the Bayfront, and several of us are involved in trying to move that particular project forward. So I think that what you brought to us will give us additional ammunition to ensure that what we wind up having on the Bayfront is a true representation of our struggles as well as our hopes and expectations. So thank you again. Does anybody have a question for Radia? We have time for 2 or 3.
Well, is my mic still on? Because I don't see my box anymore, my little square.
Your mic is on.
Mic is on.
Okay, I don't see my picture. But what resonated for folks? Did anybody take anything away from that?
Unmute yourself for your question.
I have a question. Hi, this is Michelle Redwine, dear. This was absolutely fabulous. And Jim Stewart and I are on the committee for diversity for public art. And we are really at the beginning stages, and it would be so advantageous for you to be a part of this particular group. And if ASALH is interested, as everything goes, we are in a major fundraiser campaign right now. And certainly that if we want to have that sense of presence in this sculpture, it would be of value for ASALH to consider, financially supporting this effort. So Jim and I will bring more information, and we'll speak to you, Radia, about how you can get involved. We would love your experience and your knowledge and background as a part of this, initiative for the city. And by the way, we've gotten funding from the Community Foundation and from the city of Sarasota. So there is a major push.
I would love to be involved. I'd love to be on that committee.
Okay, I'll make sure it happens.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim, I've been wondering if this is Priscilla. Well, Radia, as I was watching, I was just so thrilled. The art, and it made me miss New York city so much. Thank you so much. But I'm wondering, is it possible for your slides to be on the ASALH site so that we could go back and enjoy them?
Yeah, I want to say yes. I don't have copyrights for all of the images. Some of them are mine, but some of them are not. I just have to talk to Jim or somebody who might know about that. The images can be used for educational purposes, but they can't go far and wide, or you can't, because I'll get sued. But I'll try to think. I know that there is a way for me to upload them somewhere for you to look at, so I will definitely do that.
Okay, another way it's for me to take the title and look it up, and I could see the picture separately. But I just like your collection.
No, I'll send it. I'll make it available to you. I'll make it available to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Dan Boxer. This is a question for Michelle regarding the Bayfront project. I noticed from Ken Shalin that there's 13 semifinalists, and Lynn and I have been away. Well, now we're not away, but how many are African American at the semifinalists?
We don't know that yet because we kind of closed down on March 13th. But I do understand from Ken this past week that I'm going to help him set up a video conference. We've written to the artists to let them know that they're on hold, but I have not seen, and I do not know the group that is involved. That was one of our criteria though. So, yeah.
Again, thank you, Radia. We can't, here's a virtual plaque for you.
Thank you. I can't see my pictures, so I don't know how to mute myself. So,
Okay.
but I'll be quiet.
All right, next on the agenda is the President's report, and I'll be brief. The February meeting, the primary purpose was for us to have our Black History Month celebration of the annual theme, which was African Americans and the vote, so that we don't have a formal minutes from that meeting, although I do have a recording, because Deborah did loan me her recorder, so I do still have your recorder, Deborah. The board met by Zoom on April 1st, and the principal item was to approve the budget that will be presented to you during the treasurer's report. Of course, Randy Rankin was canceled, but we have secured the facility for next April already. So Randy Rankin is not dead. It has just been shifted to 2021. And then finally, the MATE meeting is still up in the air. It has not been canceled, but I have every expectation that it's going to be. So we're going to probably have to design a virtual celebration for our Woodson scholars who will be receiving scholarship. But I'll keep you posted on that. And if anyone has some ideas about what type of virtual celebration would be appropriate, please let me or Bernadine Rice know. So thank you very much. That concludes my report. Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Alan is on the call.
Hi, I'm here. Can everybody see me?
We can see you, Alan.
Okay, great. My presentation on the budget will be fairly brief. I want to go over a couple of items, the assumptions, the background, and then the outcomes. My assumptions in preparing the budget were fairly conservative, as most financial people are. I assume membership would increase by roughly 8% up to a number like 400. I know that's probably a little bit behind, but it's better to be safe than to be sorry at this time. The other items which represent the major categories of the budget, restricted funds, operating, and Randy Rankin, all increased by roughly 6%, 5%, and 4% appropriately. The revenue has changed very little. I'll go over each one of the parts, but I want to go over the background and the assumptions first. Starting with the restricted funds, these are the funds generally provided by the veterans of color. Most of that is dictated by stipulations by the bank accounts. There's very little that we do in that account. And the bottom line, this number remains roughly $4,000 per year, excluding the expenditures, which vary year to year based on the sales of the videos. So that part of the budget is very straightforward. Any questions on restricted funds? Okay. The next part of the budget is operating funds. That's really the face of ASALH. There are funds here for website, community outreach, Heritage House, Christmas breakfast, etc. Again, those numbers versus last year have only increased by roughly 5%. Any questions on the operating side? And lastly, we have Randy Rankin, which this year will be materially different than prior years because we have no Randy Rankin. Our budget projection for revenue should be roughly the same if the revenue projections provided in Jim's memo a couple weeks ago come out. The big savings occurs in the area of expenses. Our expenses are normally 25 to 28%. This year, through the use of credit cards, our expenses will be roughly 3% of revenue. And those are the basic assumptions behind the budget. And I think they drive the numbers that you see in front of you. Any questions on the budgets or the assumptions?
Yes, hi, this is Michelle.
Yes.
I have some corrections that I sent to David last night. David, after receiving the budget, David Wilkins.
Okay.
And I will share those with you unless David is passing them on.
I haven't seen them yet, no.
Oh, okay. And they just related to the Muse. It related to income from the Muse, as well as the actual expenses.
Okay.
So I'll see that you receive them.
Okay. Are they material changes or are they just minor changes? What's the nature of the changes?
Just minor. The income from the Muse, and I don't have the email in front of me, I think was $250. And the actual expenses were $1,490 some dollars.
Okay.
Versus what you have here. It wasn't a lot, but just for the corrected amounts.
I'll make sure that gets corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll do that. Any other questions, thoughts on the budget? Okay, that concludes my remarks on the budget.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve the budget. As
So moved.
Moved by Deborah Reese. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Florence?
Yes.
Florence. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
I muted everybody. Jim.
Shouldn't we approve the budget with the?
Aye.
With the changes. With changes that, Michelle read.
Jim, unmute yourself. Jim, unmute yourself.
Opposed? All right,
Madam Chairman, before the Senate, some changes on cinnamon toast.
Good. Everybody's muted again, Jim.
I'm not. I unmuted because I wanted to know from Jim what was the date for the Randy Rankin. April what?
Let's see. It's the week after Easter. Let me look at my calendar quick.
Okay, you can tell me later.
Okay. Yeah, we made sure that it would not conflict with Easter next year.
Oh, okay.
This is Dara Brooks. My concern about the vote was, shouldn't we approve the treasurer's report with the changes, not as presented right now?
Well, I guess my mic was muted when I responded to you. I said, yes, you're absolutely right. So we can we amend the motion to reflect that? Does the motion maker accept that amendment? Deborah.
Connie Anderson, I thought we were voting on the budget.
Yes, a question was raised about the wording of the original motion.
On the budget?
Yes.
Okay, not the treasurer's report, which had the correction, but the budget.
The budget.
Okay, just being clear on what the motion was. Thank you.
Michelle Redwine made corrections to the budget regarding the Muse and the income from the Muse and the actual expenses. Jim?
Yep. So the motion, as I stated, it didn't indicate that it was the budget with the recommended revisions from Michelle's. So I want to.
Well, okay. Well, you want to make the motion?
No, I want you to accept.
Okay.
Accept that wording.
Yes.
Maybe the original motion.
The original motion. I don't. Yes.
Seconded, Florence.
Second.
Well, Florence was the original second.
Correct.
You accept the revision?
Are you talking to me or Michelle?
I'm saying that Florence.
Yes.
All right, so we will vote again. We'll vote again on the amended motion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 It's your hand.
All right, next. Next on.
Jim, you're muted again. You're muted again.
Got you. Next on the agenda is correspondence. Rosia, are you on the call?
Here she is. You're muted, Rosia. Just unmute. Yep. Marion, can you help her? Let's see. Let me see if I can find her. There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have, the only thing I have is, there was no, before I left, I'm not in town, but I distributed all the mail before I left. And I left the keys in my house in case, I need somebody before the next meeting to check the mailbox. But other than that, I have nothing else. Did you get it?
Thank you very much. Next is good and welfare. Bo?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I only have one bit of information to report, and that's concerned Geraldine Gibbs' sister passed, and we sent out a condolence to John and Geraldine, indicating our condolences concerning the passing of Geraldine's sister. Other than that, I have no other report.
I think we also expressed condolences to Margaret Coleman by email, and we also noted the transition of Arlene Green as well.
Margaret Coleman?
Yes.
Her sister died? Okay. And who was the last one, the next one?
Arlene Green.
Arlene. And what was the nature of?
She passed from, I think, coronavirus in New York.
Oh, she passed in New York. Okay. All right, thanks.
Well, please let us keep all of our family in mind, and please communicate to us any illness or transitions of members of our members' families, so that we can acknowledge those appropriately.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Yes. Thank you both. Next is the membership committee. Peggy.
Peggy, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Okay. My best count at this time is that we have 410 members, including 6 life members, 24 youth members, 6 associate members, and 7 institutional members. I have not counted. Each institution is allowed to have 3 representatives. That is a guideline from the national office. I have not included those additional 3. That would mean about 21 additional members. I have not included them in that count. Let me show you, yes?
It was 6 life, 24 youth, 6
associate,
and 7 institutional. Okay.
The 2020 directory was ready for distribution at the March meeting, but as you know, that meeting was canceled. Here's what it looks like. Can you see it, or is it showing upside down?
No, it's correct.
Okay. I want to thank the membership committee because they worked very hard on this, and we're very disappointed that we're not able to distribute it at this time. The plan is to distribute the 2020 directories at the September meeting. That's assuming we will have a September meeting, because obviously it's not safe to distribute at this time, and it's too many of them to mail. That's a financial issue there. What I would like to remind members is that aside from this coronavirus situation, we do not meet June through August. So just a friendly reminder, it would help the committee, and I know it would help Alan and myself very much if no one tries to pay dues during the summer. There's not much happening in terms of mail pickup, and as a matter of fact, the national office, and Alan and Jim, I've sent you an email about this. The people that are collecting the mail there in terms of membership are only going to the national office once a week. They have returned the last membership report that included a check. So some people who paid in, say, late February and March, you may not be getting your membership booklets from the national office yet because they have not added you to their roster. They returned the membership report to me because they said they are no longer at this time taking certified mail. I have been in the habit of turning our checks into them by certified mail to ensure that they got to the right person and the correct office. So I now have to return that check to them by regular mail, which I'm a little uncomfortable about. So if you pay dues somewhere in late February or March, you probably are going to have a delay in getting your materials from the national office because they have not yet accepted that check or accepted the people who paid during that time frame. We had very few people who have paid dues in the month of April, so I think people that were going to pay for 2020 have probably pretty much already paid. Alan, Jackie, and myself have a very detailed process in terms of how we record reports that come to us, so rest assured, we're doing what we can on this end. But if they're only collecting membership reports once a week for the last few weeks, that's where we are with them. But our records here, I think, are pretty straight. So I will be returning that check to them again. And I think there's one more institution that did a reactivation check in the last week. I will be sending that to the national office also. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, but you should know when you paid, and we know when you paid because I am still recording the dates that the check was routed to me. Not much else to report other than we will resume our annual membership push again from September through December for 2021 dues. If the situation with the virus changes where we're able to distribute the 2020 directories before September, I'll get with the membership committee and we will try to do that. But right now, the decision is it is not safe to deliver them.
Maybe I've got a question to the very last point. If, for example, the libraries reopen in the summer, obviously following the guidelines, would that then be an opportunity for the committee to arrange a distribution through the reopened library, for example?
Well, you have to.
That's something to think about, but let me just put a caveat on that. I would like to set up if that happened, I would like to set up a system where we don't have 50 people coming in at one time. To me, that is still a safety concern. I don't know if everyone's wearing a mask or if they're wearing gloves, but I'm not willing to put myself in danger. And several of us, and quite a few people in the organization, most of us are over 60 or 65. We're African American for the most part. And some people have other underlying conditions. So the library may indeed open, but that does not mean that it is safe to distribute. But I will get with the committee and see if there's some way to safely do that once everything has been cleared, once we get the go ahead. And that would include some type of way where maybe only 10 people at a time, have a staggering pickup. So that's a possibility, and I'm not going to rule that out at all. But right now, I think it is wise to just hold on to these directories. I'm not recommending that people drop by my house to pick them up, and I'm not recommending that we mail out 300 plus directories either. That's just not financially feasible. So I know everyone's disappointed. I know I want my directory too. They're in my garage. They've been all wiped down and they've been bleached and whatnot, but right now it's just not safe. But anyone who has an idea about how we can safely distribute them at a later time this summer when we get the all clear, then feel free to give me a call or send me an email and I'll get with the membership committee. We'll take all those ideas under advisement and in consultation with the executive committee.
Can we do it from a digital perspective now, since we've got all of you guys on the call now? Is it possible we can go ahead and create that in some sort of digital form? That way you safeguard anyone actually touching anything. You can just get into your email on your phone and take a look at the information.
Quite frankly, if all things were equal, I think the directory should be on the website. But there's some privacy issues there, so I'm not sure. I'm not computer literate enough to answer that question, but I understand what you're saying. And the executive board hears your question. So we can discuss that and see if there's some way to do that. But right now for 2020, I don't think that's going to happen with this particular set of directives. But your point is well taken.
Yeah, I think the privacy concerns have to be paramount. We don't want individuals' personal information widely available on the website because the website is a public instrument that anybody can get to, and it has email addresses and phone numbers and so forth.
Well, we'll not put what I'm referring to is distribute that information directly to the subscriber. Does that make sense? Not putting it on the website, just directly to the subscriber, to the members. That way you eliminate any type of privacy issues.
I'll leave that to our website content manager.
It would be possible to create a file and lock that file and only send it to individuals so that the information inside cannot be edited. So we could lock it and send it It wouldn't be a Word document or an Excel. So it's a way, there's a possibility of doing it.
I think that that is definitely a website question, and I don't know if there's a fee attached to that. I don't know where we are in terms of payment to the webmaster. That's a Jim question too.
No, that's a Marion question, but
Let me look into it and get back to you with some.
yeah, Marion's going to discuss the status of the website later in the meeting. So, but thank you for your report, Peggy. Any other questions regarding the report? Okay. Next is Scholarship Committee, Bernadine Rice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to first thank members of the Scholarship Committee for their time and patience in working to complete the application process and all of the other business of the committee. They are Carol Contino, Harriet Cowan, Barbara Gibbs, Ron Klein, Ron Mason, Quincy Thoughts, and last, Vivian Johnson. I say last because Vivian has been a member for many years on the Scholarship Committee. This morning, I would like to recognize a member who spent many years working along with Joan Bird as the chairs of the Scholarship Committee, Arlene Green. Arlene believed in the absolute need for us to help the children of this community. She was a cheerful person who inspired me with her quiet determination to do what she could to help. Arlene died recently, and all we can say is rest in peace in God's kingdom, Arlene. I would like to report that Idana has completed her 4-year study at Valdosta State College. Idana received the Carol Lynch Pippin Memorial Scholarship of $3,000 per year for 4 years with a total of $12,000. Idana plans to enter medical school in the fall. She attended Valdosta State with her cousin, and they both plan to attend medical school supporting each other, family endeavor. Idana's mother died this past fall, leaving 3 girls, 27 years, 22 Idana, and a 16-year-old. The stepfather is in prison. The 27-year-old is the single mother of 2 children and guardian of her 16-year-old sister. I would like to share with you a letter that Idana wrote to Miss Pippin's brother, Daniel Lynch, who has been very generous in supporting a solid scholarship program since his sister's death. I do want to thank Lynetta Gaines, who was a friend of Miss Pippin, for her connection and keeping the remembrance of Miss Pippin alive in ASALH. Idana's testimonial, this is a word that President James Stewart used in referring to Idana's letter. She writes, "Dear Mr. Lynch, I am the recipient of your wonderful sister's scholarship. The last time I wrote you, I was a freshman, and now I am currently a senior on her final weeks of college. All my life, I worried about money, and I'd do anything to not be a burden on my mom. I considered going to the school in my hometown and transferring to a different school to save money, but ASALH convinced me to do otherwise, and I am very grateful for that decision. This scholarship was the most consistent thing while my personal life was chaotic. I personally want to thank you again for allowing Mrs. Lynch Pippin's scholarship to thrive and touch my life. I plan to go to medical school after graduating to become an OBGYN. I will be the first doctor in my family, and your family has pushed me towards my goal, and I am thankful. I am one step closer to bringing life and saving lives, all thanks to you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Sincerely, Idana."
Amen.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, OBGYN too.
President James Stewart, in his remarks, when I sent this letter to him and the scholarship committee members, he said, and this is why we do what we do. So we move forward, needless to say, our committee has had the shifting that came with the virus, not completing the face-to-face interviews with the high school students. The technology steps in, and YouTube videos under the direction of Harriet Cowan were completed by 5 of the 6 students we had not interviewed. Okay, we have about 25 high school applicants. It's down from last year. We have looked at that situation. We'll look further. I have a consultant in Mr. Herman Bell, whom I've consulted to see how we in the future can get more face-to-face contact with the high school counselors. But we have about 12 of the college applicants, which is about what we had last year. We are very intelligent, articulate, cheerful students prepared to move ahead in their next level of their development. Our next committee meeting will be this coming Tuesday, where we will do the work of going through the rating sheets that the committee members have submitted and selecting these applicants for 2021 school year. I thank all of you for your generosity in providing funds for the students, and we will be talking about that replacement of the random ranking with another hopefully very valuable fundraising project. Thank you again. This is the end of my report, President Stewart.
Any questions for Bernadine?
Yes, I did not get the name of the student that she was speaking about.
I did not give her last name, but I think it's fine. Her name is Edonna, capital E as an egg, D-O-N-Y-A. Last name is Timmons, T-I-M-M-O-N-S.
T-I-M-M, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I would be interested in getting her contact information.
Or?
Yeah. Not now, but at your convenience. I'd like to reach out to her.
Okay, this is Dr. Hill. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I will.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Bernadine, and thanks to the committee for all of their hard work.
You're quite welcome.
And as you see, I'm wearing one of the t-shirts that we plan to give to this year's Woodson Scholars. So I know you all are going to help me make sure that you use all of those t-shirts that I purchased. So thank you again.
So there are 25 high school applicants and 12 college applicants. Is that what I understand?
Yes, you may record that.
Okay.
Thank you again. Next, Education Committee, David Wilkins.
Thanks, Jim. Very quickly, I want to begin by thanking all of the volunteers we had over the course of working in Emma E. Booker reading program and the Booker High slavery class, more than 20 volunteers. I won't take time to list them all, but I would ask Marion if you would unmute and just comment on the reading program at Emma. We weren't able to complete either of these, obviously because of COVID-19, but Marion was one of the volunteers in the Emma E program.
Yes, the Emma E program was going so well. We were using Lynetta Gang's book as our guide and using Kwanzaa's principles and taking them through it. They were very engaged. It was going very smoothly, very well, very creative. But Shavana, Carol, and Lynetta and others were in attendance. There were a number of young boys in the class, as young as and young girls. So it was really, really satisfying. I'm hoping that we can do it again soon.
Thanks, Marion. The Booker High slavery class, Edna Sherrell's class, was also, I think, going very well. We're very disappointed we weren't able to finish. We were scheduled to restart and join their Zoom educational platform, but the school had security issues, and so we'll not be able to finish that. Perhaps most interestingly, one of the last classes we had with Edna's 11th graders was a presentation on the yellow fever epidemic put on by students from New College. It couldn't have been more timely, and it was, don't have time to go into the details, but it was really well received by the students. And again, they learned a lot about pandemics just weeks before the current situation we're in. So we will certainly look forward to restarting with Edna's class in the fall. And I know that we will also be back in Emma E. And our goal is to still get into the middle school if we have the additional volunteers for 2020, 2021. Jim, the last part of my the report is just to, I suppose, announce that we will be teaching the reconstruction course using Zoom over the spring and summer. Many of you know I taught a reconstruction course at ASALH and almost got through the end of that before the pandemic hit. That was a 7-course, hour-and-a-half series. And as we did last year when I did the slavery class, we did the same class again in the spring. So I'm proposing to do that again this spring and summer using the reconstruction class. Jim and I discussed that and agreed that we would probably, not probably, but we will do 10 sessions of 1 hour each, beginning mid to late May. And I will be getting a syllabus out, an invitation to obviously all of our members. We'll use the same format we're using this morning, a registration process through Zoom to build our class list. And then I'll obviously follow with more information, including the syllabus. So watch for that. We'll be advertising that very soon. Invite everyone to join. We'll very likely do it on Mondays around 11 to 12. Obviously, I'll be giving you the specific dates. And again, the enrollment will be coming electronically, and we will be using a Zoom registering process, much as we used this morning. If there are any questions, obviously contact me directly, but please watch for that. Jim, that's all I've got this morning.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions for David at this time? Well, I'd just like to encourage everyone to consider enrolling in the reconstruction course. We know that the slavery course was a major hit for us, and I'm sure that the reconstruction course will be just as important. Next on the agenda is the upcoming Giving Challenge. I've sent out several emails about the challenge, which runs from noon on the 28th to noon on the 29th. And we have set in motion, or we set in place a process to facilitate those donations. So Mary, do you want to say something briefly about how that's going to work?
Yes. When you go to the, we want to encourage everyone to go to the ASALH website, and if you search for ASALH Manasota, when you put it in your search bar, it'll take you to our site, Manasota ASALH. You'll see on the home page, when you scroll down, you'll see the Giving Challenge. There's the orange button that you'll click, and it says Find Out More. It will take you to a page that says, has a large image gives you the information about the Giving Challenge. And then there is a button that says ready to donate. Now, if you click it today, it'll say you'll have to come back on the 28th. But on the 28th and the 29th, if you click on the ready to donate, then we get credit for your donation. If you go through our website, click on the home screen image, and then one more click on the page that says ready to donate. It is an orange button. We made it clear. Click on that and it'll take you to the Giving Challenge website. And what that does is it'll take you to a form. You'll be able to make your donation using a credit card or PayPal in order to make the donation. And we get credit for the first $100 that you donate. So if everybody donates $100, we'll have the money we need for the scholarship fund.
Are there any questions about the process?
Yes, this is Linda Crump, and I have a question. Let's suppose there are 2 people in a household. Can each person donate $100 so that it gets matched instead of one person donating $200 that won't get fully matched?
You have to use different credit cards.
That's correct. Credit cards.
It's by credit card. So if you have 6 credit cards, you can give 6 times.
I also have a suggestion also. And I don't know if ASALH has this or not, but it's some of the organizations here in the city, what they're doing is they're donating their parts, but what they're also doing is finding donors to match the match, and that would double, pretty much the match that you get. For example, if ASALH as a group donates, let's say $1,000, and then the Patterson Foundation will match that. I'm saying a group, the Patterson Foundation will match that, and if ASALH had a donor or someone that was interested in what the work of ASALH, then that donor could match the match that ASALH made. Does that make sense? So essentially, you're doubling the fund.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mark. But we haven't identified, we haven't used sort of developed that strategy yet, since this is our first go round. But I think it's certainly something we want to look at as we move forward, because I see this as an effort on our part. I did want to mention that we are organizing a phone tree. So I have probably about 15 people that have volunteered to call up to 30 people each during this time to remind them about making those donations. So you should probably expect to get a phone call from one of us, and I'll be organizing that tree over the weekend, distributing the names and the telephone numbers of people who will be making, to the callers who will be making those calls.
Kim, I have a question about the Giving Challenge. And I guess this is response to Mark, which was very pertinent in terms of that information, Mark. My thought was that I have 5 organizations that I'm going to be donating to, and I wasn't going to go on each website. I was actually going to just do it through the community foundation. So is there some benefit, is what I heard in the introduction, that we should specifically go through the ASALH benefit? And then in relationship to what Mark was saying, there are so many donors that are giving to the community foundation to match those donations. So I'm a little confused as to what's the best way for us to get the biggest dollar. Is it to go through ASALH or to go through the community foundation to see what those match dollars would be like?
Oh, you want to go ahead, Mark? Are you want to answer, or you want me to?
I don't have an answer for that question. I would assume, just based on that, it would be more advantageous to go through the ladder, and then get a donor to match. I mean, I would assume, but I don't really know, because I don't know the entire situation. So
I can only speak to what happens on the website. Is when you go through the website, there's a unique code for ASALH that gets attached to your donation when you go through our website, and it goes through to the form. However, if on the form you were careful to make sure you mentioned and put in ASALH, then you could also go directly. But to guarantee it electronically, an electronic code gets attached to it when you go through our website. So those are the options. I am not sure if how they are tracking it from a manual or a printed or a mailed form.
Now, I'm hoping that people will choose to go through the website, because I would like us to get some sense of the donations that are coming in, because that's important for us to know as we make decisions about how much scholarship money we're going to have to allocate. The money's not distributed until July 1st from the Giving Challenge. And obviously we want to make our award announcement sooner than that.
Can I say two things? Sorry.
Question.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I'm interrupting. It's Dan here. We have participated in the Giving Challenge, and I have two comments. Number one, if you call the Community Foundation, I can't remember the right person's name. They are excellent at explaining to you how you can get the best bang for your buck. They're fantastic. Also, we can also help. If you contribute via the Community Foundation, you do get a list of the people who contributed. So you know that people from ASALH obviously got to filter out other people, but you can find that out.
And question, Bernadine. I just have a question or clarification. I'm Bernadine, and I'm using my email address. And if I have 5 credit cards, I don't think I can go on continuously doing, I think it's one name, one maybe email address. And if I wanted to do $100, then I will be matched up to that $100. I need clarification, because I didn't think that you could just do multiple donations. You can do as much as you want, but they will only match up to $100. Is there a little confused on this?
Well, I think the point I was trying to make is, let's say, for instance, every ASALH member gives $100. And as a group, there could be a donor or, a friends of ASALH to match that entire pool. That's kind of where I was going. Instead of, each ASALH member would attribute to whatever they want, but I'm thinking as a whole, if we had someone that liked our interests, in what we're doing as a donor or friends of ASALH, match that entire pool up to $100. So that way we get the match from $100 from the Passive Foundation, and then that donor would match that number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I want to read an email from Roxy Jurdy, the CEO of the foundation, to clear up some of this. Hi, Jim. Great to see you publicizing the Giving Challenge. One clarification. The Patterson Foundation will match up to $100 per each unique contribution. The guidelines don't allow for someone to be matched if they make multiple contributions of $100 to the same entity only for the first contribution. And the person that, if you need additional clarification, is Maddie Hanson, Manager of Nonprofit Services at the foundation. So I'm done. I see somebody's face on the screen here. Go ahead. Are you muted?
Maria, are you trying? There you go.
Yeah, this is Maria Thacker, and I received a message from Florida Studio Theater, and let me tell you what they are doing. It says, this year our donation will be 2 to 1. One of our members has established a challenge fund. They have pledged to double your donation with a $1 for $1 match. Additionally, during the 2020 Online Giving Challenge, the Patterson Foundation will generally match the first $100 of each gift. Your friend contribution will have a triple the impact. So I think what they're doing is, if someone gives to ASALH and then someone within ASALH commits to match that, then Patterson will match the final $100 in the final one.
So we need a deep-pocketed member of ASALH or friend to help us multiply the match. But I think that's what Mark is getting at also. So I think that's something that we'll be able to work on for next year. But right now, I just need our members to step up and
okay.
help us achieve our goal for our students. If there are any questions, please let's share those before next Tuesday. We'll try to get answers to you, and I'll continue to send out reminders.
That's exactly the point I was trying to make, Jim. Thank you.
Okay. It's all good. So we'll get the momentum going. So thanks again. Marion, is there anything else you want to say about the website? I think it's spectacular, and I hope people have had a chance to visit it.
Yes, we now have a section under events and trips that includes past trips. So the last trip, if you click on the link under events and trips, past trips, you can now see PowerPoint presentation that Jim and I believe, I've forgotten the person's name.
Gary Giscombe and Sherry Suggs put that together.
Yeah. So it's now on the website. Should we take another trip, we'll be able to put that on the website. And we also have the ASALH video meetings. We have a section for that to be able to upload it so that people can see the video meeting online. Same section. And on the homepage, there is it's loading slowly, but it's there. It's in the middle of the website homepage. There is a audio of the Joe Madison Sirius XM special preview of the Carter G. Woodson Home. It was originally aired 2/27/17, and Jim requested that we put it on our website. It's on the homepage, so you can click on the play button and listen to that interview and that special preview of the Carter G. Woodson Home. And again, one other thing, events and trips, when we're able to start to populate it again, we have the calendar, but we also have other community events. So we'll start, if there are going to be Zoom events that you want everyone to know about. Send that information to Jim, and then I will put the notification of that meeting, no other information, obviously, but the notification of that meeting on the website. And they would have to contact Jim or go back to the email to contact the person who's having the Zoom meeting in order to get the meeting ID and password. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other old business? If not, moving to new business.
Hey,
The item
Jim,
on the agenda, the
Yeah,
national.
can I
Board-
speak? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Jim?
Yes, go ahead.
Penelope?
Can I speak? I don't know how to do this. I sent you an email. You probably haven't had a chance to look at it yet. About tomorrow on CBS Channel 10 at 10 a.m. I think you can remember when you came to Moat with the executive committee, you met one of our young biologists, Amanda Hodo, and she's going to be on TV tomorrow. And yes, on oh God, sorry. Wait a minute. I'm trying to pull it up here. Yes, a CBS program featuring women in STEM. And Amanda is going to be in this program called Mission Unstoppable. And, you know, she's going to be featured as one of the young scientists. So I just encourage.
Was that CBS or PBS?
CBS.
Yes, and her name
Channel
is
10. Yeah, Channel 10. 10 a.m. tomorrow.
10 a.m. Okay.
I'll send an email out this afternoon.
Yeah. But, yeah. Do you remember meeting her? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. She's quite dynamic. She's got great personality.
Very impressive. So I will send that email out this afternoon.
Thanks, Jim.
The National Board formally adopted Lift Every Voice and Sing as the official anthem for ASALH. And each branch is expected, when we get back to face-to-face meetings, to have that song sung at events. They've also requested that we formally include in the minutes the local endorsement of this, of the adoption of the song. So I'm asking for a formal motion that Manasota ASALH adopt Lift Every Voice and Sing as our official anthem.
I'm unmuting, Jim.
I'm in favor.
I move that we
Aye.
would read the line.
Aye.
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 Make this COVID.
Aye.
Make the Kool-Aid.
I need to say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, it's been moved and seconded.
You have it on mute.
Any questions?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Other new business?
Jim, you're muted again. Jim? Jim, you're muted. There you go.
Other new business? Announcements? Motion to adjourn?
They don't
So
wanna-
moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Jim, I would like to thank you and David for this meeting. It's just fantastic. It's wonderful to see everybody. And, you know,
Thanks everybody for your participation. Please be safe and let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Go right
Keep
now.
your
Wash
distance.
your hands.
Keep your distance.
Party over here.
Wonderful.
Party over here.
Thank you.
Going for a drink. Hi, Lois.
People, wash your hands.
Oh, Lois.
To the letter.
The next meeting.
You, both of you.
The letter.
My God.
You ain't doing it.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Go wash your hands.
Thank
I
you.
want to go.
This is the best part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Number 3.
Do we have to leave?
No, we can just sit here and do this.
David, my beard is getting as long as yours.
I like it, doctor. I like it.
Everybody needs a haircut.
Thank you.
I shave.
Trying to be a werewolf.
You can go to Georgia and get one now, apparently.
Oh, by the way, don't drink Clorox or Lysol.
Oh, no Lysol. No Lysol.
Yes.
Gotta read the article. I'll let you know.
There will be some stupid people who will do that.
That's so sad.